Okay, so I'm going to tie up a few patterns today. I'm going to show. So I'm going to tie up a few very simple wet fly style patterns today. The goal is not to imitate or recreate any one particular pattern, but I'm going to show a few different ways to tie on soft hackle, maybe some tips along the way of how I do it, things to look out for, some gotchas. I'll probably mess up a bit along the way, so you'll see how I recover from messing up something. But yeah, so on here I just have like a size 12. I have a size 12, like a shrimp caddis pupa kind of curved shank nymph hook. You can use a wet fly specific hook, whatever you'd like. I'm going to tie on a really simple thread body. Yeah, I'm not even going to use any dubbing here. Normally I like to add some bulk and give it a bit of a taper, but really the point of this is not the fly itself, but really the soft hackle part. So I'm gonna tie it in there. It's really messy. I normally would take my time, and you know what? I'm doing this. I'm gonna take a little bit of time. All right, that's not great. It is a messy body, but that's fine. So however you'd like to do the body, let's say you put on some quill or something, and you make that nice segmented abdomen, you get some sort of thorax, and you're looking to do a collar. I like to start maybe an eye length or two behind the hook eye. Right around there, I'd be happy with the collar going on there. So I'm going to leave the thread there. The first one we're going to use is probably the most common, which is partridge feather. Now I have a whole partridge skin here, and there are a lot of different colors and a lot of different material sort of densities, thicknesses, rigidities that you can get out of an entire bird. So I do recommend going for an entire bird if you can. The feather that I'm going to use is coming from this really soft, supple region right around the neck. There are some stiffer fibers as you get further into the body, also slightly different colorations. The wing feathers are very stiff, so you generally don't want to use those if you have to turn the stems because they're likely to break. So I have the feather here, and all these fuzzy bits we're going to get rid of, and we are going to tie in for these nice little barbs there. All right, so get rid of the fuzzy parts. That's pretty good. Nice and clean. Right. So the first way I'm going to tie it in is with the stem side facing the rear of the hook, and I'm going to have a nice little concave up with the feather. And what I mean by that is it's cupped so that it's, if it were a cup, it would be facing like a regular cup would. So it makes a little smiley face if you look at the curvature of the actual feather. I'm going to tie it in like that with the stem side facing the rear of the hook. So what I like to do is I like to start with the feather kind of facing me and on my side of the hook, and as I am tightening the thread, it's going to pull it up to the top of the shank. Take some wraps, get it down nice and tight, make sure it's positioned nicely. Inspect your flies as you're tying. Don't get like 7 steps in and then think about making an adjustment. Adjust as you tie. You don't have to be fast. Right, so So we're going to pretend there's some lovely abdomen and thorax here, or some sort of profile to this fly. But for now, for demo purposes, that's tied in. I really, really recommend using Hackle pliers to wrap these collars because these are short, stubby feathers. You're not going to have a lot of real estate to work with, and you want to make sure you get the most out of them. So yes, I recommend these. So I am going to use the plunger style. You can use the other style where you press them together. In fact, let me grab it. I have them somewhere. Here it is. This style where you press together sides and it opens and closes that part. You gotta make sure that once you grab hold of the feather there, that you don't press on those sides again so you don't loosen it up and it keeps a nice tight grip. These are fine too. I'm gonna go with this one though, and I'm going to preen the fibers back as I make my turns. That's really important. You don't want fibers going towards the eye of the hook if you can avoid it. Not the end of the world if you go that way, but as much as you can, you want them to go rearward and really create those nice spindly long legs or whatever you're using. Sometimes it forms like a little profile. And as I make my turns, I'm turning one in front of the next, trying to keep them touching. Right? Oops. I'm only going to get like two turns, and that is fine. Oh, you know what? I'm going to undo that because my thread was in the wrong spot. So your thread should be in front of your fly. I'm going to try that again. Don't pull too hard because you're going to break these delicate feathers. So I make my turns. Again, pulling backwards. It's about 2 turns, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to catch that hackle in. A spot that I like. Let go of these hackle pliers. Trim this hackle. Don't cut your tying thread. I've done that a bunch. It's very aggravating. A little bit of waste there. I'm going to clean that up with some turns. Form a little bit of a head. And brush out the fibers. Remember, take your time. It's not a competition. Unless you're a guide and you really need to tie these up, which if you're watching my video, you're probably not a guide. You don't need my tips. And there you go. Whip finish. And then make sure you're happy with, I forget what it's called, olive and partridge and green and something like that. Anyways, I like to separate out these barbs as much as I can. You don't have to obsess over them, just so they look a little even. Honestly, I don't know if it matters to the fish, but I have OCD, so like that. Bring them back a little bit, and when it moves to the water, it'll form like a cone. It'll form a bit of a cone and form like a tapered body for either a small bug or a tiny little fish or something like that. And there it is. That's one way to tie on soft hackle. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so we're going to continue with the partridge. We're we're going to tie it in a little bit differently. So same thing, just put a little bit of thread base. Nothing complex here. And one more time, same type of partridge feather. Stripped off the fuzzy bits. Last time we tied it in like this, with the stem facing the left. This time I am going to face the stem to the left, but instead of tying in at the stem, I'm going to tie in at the tip. And so to do that, we're going to take these fibers and we're going to pull on them the opposite direction that they're facing naturally. So we're going to go against the grain, so to speak. Leaving just a bit at the tip. All right, different kind of just the tip. So here you can do it a few different ways. You can tie it in like that and trim it off. What I like to do is I like to actually pre-trim a little bit here and give a little bit of a tie-in point like this. So just a little nubbin, something to tie into. That's about the length of the head that I want as well. So that'll kind of hopefully be tucked in without having to do any extra cleanup. So just like before, I'm starting with it facing kind of my side a little bit, and then as I tighten, it's gonna kind of shimmy over to the top. Right, it's gonna secure. Once again, hackle pliers. And then same thing, but this time the concave of the feather and sort of the direction the fibers naturally want to go is the opposite way I want them to go. So I want the fibers to face towards the rear of the fly. So I am going to preen them that way and fight kind of against their natural inclination, so to speak. I know it's a feather, doesn't have inclinations, but yeah. So you take turns. Again, don't pull too tightly. You're gonna break these very, very delicate stems. Pull these towards the back. Getting what, like 2-3 turns, something like that. All right, I'm happy with that. All right, couple turns to secure that. Trim the waist. Don't trim your tying thread. Whip finish. Sometimes I like to do it upside down like this whip finishing. Kind of like that bend of that eye hook. It's like a natural like stopping point so you don't crowd the eye of the hook, but you know, this one's easy enough either way. So you can see with this method, some of the hairs tend to flare a bit because some of the hairs were facing the rear and some of the hairs were facing forward. So you get things kind of counteracting each other, which is fine and great. This one, the profile is a bit more of like an arrowhead as opposed to like a cone. The other one was a little bit more conic. I also picked a slight feather with slightly longer fibers, so it's kind of trailing a bit rather, but that's fine. So tie it in the way that you like. Right, you can see that's one way to do the soft hackle. Good. And comparing it to the other one we tied, which is around here somewhere. I think it was this one. I think it was this one, right? You can see it's kind of more of an umbrella with all of them kind of curving this way, whereas this one is a little bit more of an arrow. A little kind of comes to a point a little bit quicker. Both are fine. So same thing as before, prepped the same way as the last way we did it. We are still going to have the concave. But last time I had the stem facing the rear of the fly. I am now going to have it face the front of the fly. This one's a little bit trickier because I'm going to be using my non-dominant hand to tie in this hackle, but that's fine. Take your time. Not everything is a cakewalk. Line that up. All right, once I get part of it in, it's not so bad. Gonna clean up this body just a little bit. Work my thread up to the front. So on the last one, what we saw was that it made like a narrower tip instead of making like an umbrella kind of tip. This one is going to go back to making more of an umbrella type of profile with fibers kind of rotating in the same direction. So same as before, pull these fibers, pull these barbs towards the rear of the fly, and take nice careful wraps to make sure they're pointing to the left or to the rear of the fly. And that's two, maybe. It's about 3 turns. Heard my noisy train go by. Same as before. No muss, no fuss. Just a simple pattern. This is like a partridge in green-ish. Not exactly that pattern, but kind of close to it. Similar profile, similar materials. Whip finish. And again, you have a nice soft tackle. Collar. All right, that's the side profile. The front. All right, that's what it looks like. Alrighty, so same thing as before, just a simple thread base body. You can do stuff that's a little bit more creative. I'm going to use Starling, very, very traditional material. Again, I have a whole bird, much cheaper than like Hungarian Partridge and stuff like that. They have a nice iridescent green color, and this really, really works as a natural flash. So it's great as a addition to these wet flies. So again, taking a soft feather, something towards the neck and chest area, those tend to be a little bit more plush. Gonna take off these fuzzy bits here, just like we did for the partridge. Don't be too frugal with your materials, thinking, oh, I should use this, even though, I don't quite think this is the right fibers. Just pull them off. Use the good stuff. All right, so I'm going to tie it in like the first method, but you can tie it in the way that any of the other two methods that I showed you, but just for simplicity. Tie in the stem. Again, it's concave up. We'll smooth this out, make a little thorax bump, I guess. Pull this back, and with my tying thread up front, grab the tip of these feathers. Again, making sure I grab some stem. Pull the fibers rearward. And take nice even touching turns. That was like 3. I think I might get 4 complete turns, something like that. I'm going to trim off the excess. Something is up with my thread. I'm going to have to fix this afterwards. But yep, same thing as the partridge. Feather works a little differently, but the concept is really the same, and you can apply this to a lot of different soft hackle collars. I don't want to cut that hackle. Get nice even coverage. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so the third and final type of material that I'm going to demo tying in is called a hen saddle soft hackle feather. Sometimes it's called like Brahma, based on like the pattern styling of the feather coloration. But it's anything that's, again, soft and pliable and kind of plush can be used to wrap as soft hackle. So like the others, this has relatively thin stem, like it's very like fluffy, these fibers. I'm gonna grab one, clean it just like we did the Starling and the Partridge, getting rid of the fuzzy bits. And once again, I'm gonna tie it with the stem facing the rear, still kind of curving up with the smiley face, and wrapping with hackle pliers. So you'll see when I wrap this, it has a slightly different profile. The other two feathers, when I wrapped this way, gonna wait for that train to go by. When I wrap the other two feathers this way, they formed like an umbrella shape. This one will form less of that really, you know, prototypical U-shaped umbrella. It'll form more of like that, you know, like the Japanese umbrellas. Coming a little bit more to a straighter point as opposed to like being a rounded shape. But it'll still have somewhat of that umbrella look to the side profile. And by Japanese umbrella, I mean like the you know, the old type that's used in some, you know, some TV shows and things like that. Sort of like that traditional shape. Anyways, oh no. Don't be like me. Don't be sloppy with your wraps. A little better. By the way, I do that often. I re-angle my fly so that my thread turns kind of are going against something that's like parallel to the ground. Because if you're wrapping something that slopes down, your thread's just going to fall off like you saw there. Anywho, this isn't a thread tutorial or a whip finishing tutorial. This is a soft hackle walkthrough. Get out of there. So just like the others, wrap the soft hackle, made a body that's like not really a body, it's just a thread body for demo purposes. And you can see it has slightly different profile. Looks like that. Fluff it and make it look nice. I think that's probably in the shot, in frame. I'll move it around a bit. But yeah, so there you have it. 3 different materials and 3 different ways to tie in the hackle. One thing I didn't show is doing it the way I just did it, but having the hackle come in as a tie-in point from the front. Sometimes there's no clearance in the back and you have to tie in with the stem facing that way. No, actually I did demo that. Yeah, you can always do it that way as well. Good luck!